An insider under the pseudonym Wang Gang, who works in a subcontract unit of a Chinese state-owned military company, recently spoke to Western media. He revealed that his company's large orders suddenly vanished, leaving only scattered, small-scale assignments. He explained, when we had a batch of 30 to 50 parts, it's considered a large now. But even these larger orders are rare. Most tasks are just for 3 or 5 items. Wang also mentioned that his former employer's boss called him one day to check on the production situation. This boss also gets military orders from a major state-owned enterprise and shared that large-scale orders were no longer coming through. The tasks they still had were actually from projects started 3 or 4 years ago. The boss told him the drop in large orders might be due to security breaches, making continued production difficult. But through other sources, Wang learned that the real reason is likely because China realized from the Russia-Ukraine war that its weapons are outdated. They missed targets and failed to meet the needs of modern warfare. As a result, authorities decided to halt old military production and begin developing new weapons. Wang didn't specify what kind of military equipment they were producing. However, he mentioned that large state-owned companies often work with many nearby private firms. When state-owned enterprises have lots of military orders, these private companies benefit from that collaboration. But when those orders decrease, private partners face tough times. Wang said in August, for instance, the state-owned enterprise I used to work with cut its subcontractors from over 50 to just 8. Even with fewer partners, workloads are still difficult. Those cut out are likely struggling even more. My former boss got a license to manufacture weapons, set up a partnership with the state company, and invested $3 million in new equipment. He was ready for large production, but as we discussed, things have changed. Now he has had to lay off workers, and only a few are left trying to get by under immense pressure. Wang previously worked on the front lines at a company under the China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation. He later left and joined a private company in May of last year. This private company collaborates with his former employer. Public records show that China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation, or CASIC, is a large central enterprise. CASIC focuses on missiles and aerospace equipment research, design, manufacturing, launch, and maintenance. The company specializes in missile weapon systems and also works on small satellite technology, solid fuel rockets, and information technology. Commentator Li Lingyi analyzed that the decrease in military orders alone doesn't necessarily mean China realizes weapons were outdated on the Ukrainian battlefield. Western countries have questioned whether Chinese companies are supplying Russia with lethal weapons for Ukraine. Recently, Ukraine even claimed that 60% of foreign parts and Russian weapons on the battlefield came from China. This suggests that Chinese authorities have had recognized weapons or parts as inadequate for the needs of modern warfare. Li Lingyi said that the drop of military production orders is likely linked to China's major overhaul in its equipment system over the past year. Many top executives in the military industry face investigations impacting business operations. Some private contractors may be cut off or lose production tasks as a result. In July of last year, the Military Equipment Procurement Information Network, part of the Central Military Commission's Equipment Development Department, publicly requested tips about illegal military equipment procurement bids since October 2017. This was part of an effort to clean up corruption in procurement bidding. Following this, several senior military officials, including former Defense Minister Li Shangfu and high-ranking officials from CASIC, including Chairman Yuan Jie and Deputy General Manager Wang Changqing, were investigated. Dr. Li Yingyu, a Taiwanese-based military expert and assistant professor at Tamkang University Graduate Institute of International Affairs and Strategic Studies, said these investigations highlight severe corruption among Chinese military officials. He told Voice of America that corruption in the military could lead to weapons being resold or fund meant for maintenance being embezzled, leaving the military's equipment in poor condition. Dr. Lin cited Russia's performance in the Ukraine war as an example. Corruption meant Russia didn't have enough fuel and ammunition, leaving their weapons almost useless, like scrap metal. A military expert and Secretary General of the Taiwan Association of Policy Research, Yang Nenzhu, said that large-scale corruption in China's rocket force is a major setback for Xi Jinping's efforts to modernize the military. He explained there are two main issues. First, corruption is widespread. Many top officials, not just one or two, have been exposed for corruption. Yang also noted that in recent years, China has been pushing for military-civil fusion, outsourcing large portion of military production to civilian companies. Director Shen Mingxi of the National Security Research Institute at Taiwan's National Defense University said that this outsourcing creates opportunities for officials to inflate budgets and pocket funds under the guise of military-civil fusion. Shen pointed out that China's anti-corruption efforts are often more about factional struggles than addressing deep-rooted issues. The frequent corruption scandals raise questions about the quality of equipment produced, such as aircrafts and ships. He said corruption usually involves kickbacks. This leads to manufacturers cutting cost or using lower quality materials. Bribery then ensures products passes through inspection easily. It's similar to China's other poorly constructed projects. On November 9th, Chinese state media Xinhua reported that Chinese leader Xi Jinping signed an order to issue the regulations on military equipment support, set to take effect on December 1st. These regulations aim to improve the supply, management, repair processes of equipment support and to strengthen binding relationships. Li Lingyi commented that after facing issues, the Chinese government often responds by creating new laws or regulations as a way to close the case. But he believes that corruption has already eroded morale in the military, making these regulations ineffective and just symbolic. Mark, host of the program Mark Space, also expressed doubt that Xi's crackdown on the military-industrial complex could eliminate corruption. He said authorities are just replacing personnel without changing the system. Many officials have bought their positions and are looking to recover those costs through kickbacks. Some may act cautiously for now, but in the long run, corruption will persist and the quality of military products won't improve. A subsidiary of AVIC, Shenfei manufacturing military aircraft, has been caught up in multiple scandals. In 2014, a workshop director at Shenfei discovered a major corruption case and reported it, but he faced retaliation. Later, he told overseas media that nearly every factory at Shenfei outsourced production projects and that corruption was rampant. Payments were often made before any aeroplane parts were even produced. Military jets frequently malfunctioned, and many had seriously safety risks. The director revealed that in 2007, parts of the J-8 and J-11 fighter jets were actually made by temporary workers from 8 small independent factories that the company had brought in. The quality was poor, leading to multiple major accidents. In some cases, private factory heads paid to cover up these issues, with faulty parts sometimes still used in planes, creating safety risks. Discussing corruption in China's military equipment, Mark stated that the Chinese government has hidden the dangers posed by corruption in the defense industry. For example, armored vehicles from Dongfeng Motors were exposed as vulnerable during the China-India border conflict a few years ago, as ordinary steel was used instead of armor-grade steel, making them easily damaged. In 2020, during a clash on the China-India border, reports emerged that Chinese Dongfeng military vehicles were penetrated, causing soldiers' fatalities. The incident, reportedly linked to corruption, led the military to cancel Dongfeng's contract and return 5,000 vehicles. However, officials never publicly disclosed this. In June 2020, Chen Jianshen, the former deputy chief engineer responsible for developing China's third-generation high-mobility military off-road vehicle, the Dongfeng Warrior, was arrested. Around the same time, Zhou Wangshen, the deputy general manager of Dongfeng's Special Equipment Division, also faced charges. Their arrest raised speculations. Mark added that Chinese submarines have also had multiple accidents. This year, U.S. media reported that a nuclear attack submarine at a Wuhan shipyard sank. Last year, another nuclear submarine reportedly malfunctioned, resulting in casualties. These incidents are likely linked to poor quality. Last year's anti-corruption investigation by the Equipment Development Department looked specifically at the quality of military equipment. Shen Mingxi explained that aircrafts are the most vulnerable to quality issues among military equipment. Unlike vehicles that can be repaired on the roadside, an aircraft using substandard parts can suddenly malfunction, leading to crashes or failing to take off. He added if U.S. aircraft last 15 years, Chinese aircraft must only last 5 to 10. China boasts of being the best, but could they compete with the US F-22 or F-35? This overconfidence could lead to underestimating adversaries and swift feats in combat. China's disregard for safety risks soldiers' lives. Statistics show that from January to November 2016, China's Army, Navy, and Air Force lost 10 aircraft. These include 4 Navy fighters, 4 Air Force fighters, and 1 each from the Army and an aviation school. 7 pilots died in these incidents, which involved planes from both Chengfei and Shenfei. China's arms exports have been declining in recent years, according to a report from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute on March 11. Chinese arms exports fell by 5.3% between 2019 and 2023 compared to the previous 5 years. This followed a prior drop of 7.8% between 2016 and 2020. Additionally, China's arms imports declined by 44% from 2019 to 2023. Analysts believe that quality concerns are contributing to China's drop in arms exports. Overseas commentary suggests that China has long modeled its weapons on Russian design but now struggles to compete with advanced arms from the US, Europe, and Russia, leaving it with only a few neglected markets. Statistics show that 74% of China's arms export go to Asia, 21% to Africa, and small amounts to countries like Venezuela and Latin America. Pakistan is China's large arms export market, supported by various loans and credits. However, Pakistan hasn't accepted every offer. For example, the JF-17 fighter jet is jointly produced by China and Pakistan, but despite Chinese financial backings, Pakistan only bought 20 J-10 fighter jets. Bangladesh is China's second largest arms market in Asia and also receives financial support from China. Bangladesh purchased 2 retired Type 035G submarines from China and a large number of small arms. Myanmar ranks as China's third largest arms market in Asia. In these countries, arms purchases often lack transparency, which creates risk of corruption among officials and contractors. The purchased weapons are rarely tested in combat, and quality concerns are often ignored. In addition to replicating Russian weapons, China also copies and steals US and Western weapons technology. Several Chinese-made drones, for example, closely resembles US military drones in appearance. China's view these low-cost drones as competitive in the global market, selling to countries like Myanmar, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and UAE and Iraq. However, many buyers have been disappointed. Jordan's Air Force bought 6 CH-4B drones from China, but eventually listed them for resale due to performance and quality issues. Iraq bought 20 CH-4B drones, 8 of which crashed, while the remaining one was grounded due to a lack of spare parts. The CH-4B closely resembles to the US MQ-1 drone and is also believed to have copied elements of the MQ-9. China's military products are known for low quality, often failing during regular operations or combat, earning them a reputation for one-time deals among buyers. As China increases its investment in military technology, global scrutiny of its defense companies has also grown. In January, the US Department of Defense added Yanzi Memory Technologies and over 10 other companies to its list of Chinese military companies, citing their close ties with the Chinese military. The Pentagon stated that China uses its military-civil fusion strategy to modernize its military, acquiring advanced technology and expertise through seemingly civilian companies, universities, and research projects. Associate researcher Pei Shiyu Xie at Taiwan's Institute for National Defense and Security Research told Voice of America that Chinese military companies have long supplemented military funding through revenue from these enterprises. While China officially ordered the military to stop for-profit operations in 1998 and claimed to have ended all military-run enterprises by 2019, there are doubts about whether these companies have truly stopped channeling hidden funding for military use. For example, Yanzi Memory Technologies, recently added to the US military company list, was founded in late 2016 as a joint venture between Xinhua Unigroup and the Chinese government. It is one of the founding members of China's High-End Semiconductor Alliance under the guidance of the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, aimed at building a domestic semiconductor industry. Xie noted that this resembles China's recent emphasis on military-civil fusion, where businesses support military developments. He added that China's large corporations, especially those in strategic or high-end sectors, are all influenced and controlled by Beijing. It's reasonable to assume that these businesses contribute hidden funding to support China's military. According to this year's budget report from China's National People's Congress, China's military budget is expected to reach 1.6 trillion yuan, a 7.2% annual increase. This growth rate is consistent with last year's increase but exceeds the country's 5% GDP growth target. Analysts say China's high military spending, even during economic slowdown, is aimed at maintaining military morale and signaling its intent to expand military power. However, with rising maintenance costs for high-tech weapons and personnel expense across all branches, China may face financial challenges in the coming years.